Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. Today we have another lesson on Mega Goal 6. But before we start it, let's take a quick recap of the previous lesson. In the previous lesson, which is lesson 10, writing, we focused on learning how to write an informational essay or narrative essay. After reading one of the essays about a story of someone who lost his luggage, then at the end he found it. We learned how to start the essay, how to express our feelings throughout this essay, and how to mention the important things and imply without mentioning the other details. We said that we don't mention every piece of detail because that makes our story boring. Okay? After that, we went to the writing corner and we've learned some ideas like that we should, when we write a personal narrative, we should use devices that can make your story more vivid, include parts where you are thinking aloud and revealing your thoughts or predicament, address direct questions to the reader such as, who would think of such a thing? Vary the pace of your story depending on the events and the feelings or mood involved. Notice that you don't need to state everything explicitly. Some developments or thoughts are naturally understood by the reader. Identify all the acts or thoughts that are implied or understood by the reader in the last lines of the model essay and write them. Today we have the 11th skill or the 11th part in this unit, which is form, meaning, and function. In this lesson, we usually have some grammatical rules, have some expressions or phrasal verbs that we learn how to use. We usually try to integrate all these pieces of information and ideas together so we can make something new out of them. We will start with the first part, which is conditional sentences with F clause when we talk about imaginary situations for the past. Imaginary means something that is not true, something is not real, something we only imagine it. It's only in our minds. It didn't happen. It's just imaginary. We are just thinking about that thing. We use past hypothetical conditionals to talk about things. Hypothetical means something not practical, something that didn't happen. It's just hypothetical. It's just theoretical thing. We are just assuming that if we do this or if we have done this, another thing will happen. So it's just a hypothetical way or hypothetical or theoretical way of talking. So we use past hypothetical conditionals to talk about things that didn't happen in the past. It didn't happen. They are often used to express regret or criticism. Express regret or criticism. We use this way if we want to show our regrets towards some or about something in the past. Something we wish that we've done or something we wish we hadn't done. Okay? The past perfect is used in the F clause. We have, or the sentence has two clauses, the F clause and the other clause. For example, if Howard Carter hadn't persuaded his friend, so we use the past of have and has, and we use the past perfect. We use the past perfect. So if Howard Carter hadn't persuaded his friend Carnarvon to fund the research for Tutankhamun's tomb, he would never have discovered King Tut's treasure. Okay? Now we have some questions or some examples that we can answer and will help us understand the imaginary situation or expressing criticism or regrets about something in the past properly. We will focus on the first one. Read the situation and speculate on how things might have turned out differently. The first one is an example. So we will try to think about this example, how we answer this question. Then we will go to number 1, 2, and 3 and give you some time so you can answer them correctly. Carter didn't give up the search for Tutankhamun's tomb. Carter's team discovered the most amazing artifacts. The artifacts were moved to the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Many people have enjoyed visiting the exhibition. Okay, now we are going to talk about something in the past and think hypothetically if it didn't happen. It did happen, okay, but we are going to think that what if it didn't happen, okay? So we will say that if Carter had given up, so we use the word had, which is the past of have and has, then we use the verb on the past perfect, the past perfect of the verb. If Carter had given up the search for Tutankhamun's tomb, he wouldn't have discovered the most amazing artifacts. The treasures wouldn't have been dug and exhibited in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Many people wouldn't have been able to see the incredible display. Number 1, a Philadelphia man visited a flea market. He purchased an old painting. Inside the painting was a valuable and rare document. Now we are going to use the F clause to link all the parts of these sentences together and also to think hypothetically about this situation like it didn't happen in the past. So a Philadelphia man visited the flea market. We say if a Philadelphia man hadn't visited a flea market, he purchased, right? So it will be he wouldn't have purchased an old painting and he wouldn't have found a valuable and rare document. Okay, we will do the same with this sentence. Terry Orton was having a garage sale. A local art teacher was passing and saw a painting. The teacher told Mrs. Horton that the painting looked like a valuable piece of art by a very famous painter. The answer is, if Terry Orton hadn't been having a garage sale, a local art teacher wouldn't have seen the painting. The teacher wouldn't have told Mrs. Horton that the painting looked like a valuable piece of art by a very famous painter. Number 3, Terry Herbert bought a metal detector. He used the metal detector to search for a treasure for more than 18 years. He didn't give up. He visited a friend's farm and used his metal detector on his friend's land. He found a lot of gold. Archaeologists and historians learned a lot about England in the 5th century as a result of Terry Herbert's discovery. If Terry Herberts hadn't bought a metal detector, he wouldn't have found a lot of gold. Now let's go to the second and the third part of the first part in our lesson today, which is talking about as if or as though for unreal situation. We can use as if and as though plus a past or past perfect verb to suggest that something is unreal or untrue. For example, he talks as if he were an expert in the field. So, is he an expert? No, he is not an expert. But he talks as if he were an expert. He pretends to be an expert in that field. So he talks as if he were an expert in the field. Or let's say they act as though they hadn't cheated on the test. Had they cheated on the test? Yes, they had. But they act as though they hadn't cheated on the test. Or we can say they act as if they hadn't cheated on the test. After that, we have it's a high time or it's about time for unreal situations. We use these two expressions and we follow them by a past simple to express criticism that something should have happened or should already have been done. So if you want to say that you should have a job and earn a wage, you can say it's a high time you found a job and earned a wage. You put or we use this expression and the following verb is on the past simple. Another example is it's about time you thought about the future. What does that mean? It means you should have considered that thing. You should have thought about your future. So it's about time you thought about the future. Now we have an exercise regarding the last part. Use the cue words to write new sentences with it's high or about time, as though, and as if. We have list of sentences on the left side and we are asked to do something with the words between the brackets. Let's take number one as an example. Terry Albert wasn't dreaming when he found 11 pounds of gold. Feel as though, be. So we have to use these three words to remake the sentence. When they remade the sentence by using these three words, it has become Terry Albert felt as though he were dreaming when he found 11 pounds of gold. You can take some time, pause the video, do the exercise by your own, then come back and check the answers with us. Number two, we're not rich, spending money as though. So the answer is, we are spending money as though we were rich. Are they rich? No, they are not. But they spend money as though they were rich. Number three, you should stop gossiping. So we said after it's high time, we should use the past simple. It's high time you stopped gossiping. You didn't see something scary. You look as if you had seen something scary. Adil isn't an old man. Adil walks as though he were an old man. Number six, you don't own this house. You are behaving as if you owned this house. Number seven, he didn't take lessons in public speaking, but he speaks as if he had taken lessons in public speaking. Faris needs this job. Faris is talking as though he didn't need this job. Number nine, my brother ought to take better care of himself. It's about time my brother took better care of himself. Number 10, she started the rumor, but she pretends as though she didn't start the rumor. After that, we have words connected with historical monuments. We have here list of words that are related to or often used to talk about historical monuments. We are going to use these words when we talk about these two following texts. In number one, we are going to talk about Jeddah Regional Museum of Archaeology and Ethnography. The second one, the Egyptian Museum of Antiquities in Cairo. You can pause the video right now, take some time, do the exercise by your own, then resume and check your answers with the correct answers on the board. Number one, the museum can be found in the historic Quzam Palace in the Nazala Al-Yamaniya in the south of Jeddah. The building, which was originally a royal palace, is incredible. There are artifacts dating from the Stone Age period and more. Exhibit and artifacts which show the rise of Islam. There is also an astonishing collection of ethnographic items which illustrate the culture of the region more recent times. The Egyptian Museum of Antiquities in Cairo. The first section of the museum houses the lost treasures of Tutankhamun, the boy pharaoh of Egypt who became a king when he was only 9 or 10 years old. There are gold masks, stunning jewelry, exquisite paintings, and inlaid boxes and other objects of breathtaking beauty and craftsmanship. The next sections of the museum take you through a tour of history, including monuments from the pre-dynasty and the Old Kingdom and monuments from more recent times. In other rooms, you can see ancient coins and papyrus. There is also a hall for mummies, housing 11 queens and kings. The last part is inversions. We use the following expressions at the beginning of a sentence. Then we add an auxiliary, then the subject to show emphasis. So if you want to show an emphasis on something, we use this structure. So the following expression at the beginning of the sentence, we follow it by an auxiliary, then the subject. So the auxiliary come before the subject. For example, not only did they find. Usually we said they find, or they did find, or they didn't find. They have done this, they haven't done that. But on the inversions, the auxiliary verb like do, does, did, have, has, had are called auxiliary verbs. They usually come after the subject like he, she, it. So we say it didn't happen, she didn't go. On the inversions, the auxiliary comes before the subject. Why? To show emphasis. So, number one, not only did they find exquisite paintings, but they also found furniture when they opened up the tomb. Number two, no sooner had they decided to give up than they saw a sealed door leading to the tomb. Little did they know that they would find some steps buried under an ancient hut. Not until I heard their story did I understand the hardship they must have suffered. On no account or under no circumstances should they give up the search. Seldom have I been so lost for words. Never have I seen something so remarkable. On D, we have this exercise. We will rewrite sentences by using words in parentheses. So we are going to use inversions. The first example is, you can see ancient coins and papyrus. So we will use the word not only. So it's not only can you see. So can here is an auxiliary. It has become, or it came before the word you, which is the subject. Not only you can see ancient coins, but you can also see papyrus. Number one, you can take photographs of any rooms or exhibits. Use the word circumstances. So we say under no circumstances, then we do the inversion. You can pause the video right now, do the exercise by your own, then come back to check your answers with the suggested answers on the board. The answer is, under no circumstances can you take photographs of any rooms or exhibits. Number two, I don't go to museums and art galleries very much these days. So we use seldom. It has become, seldom do I go to museums and art galleries these days. Ali and Ahmed had just arrived when the seminar finished. So we say, no sooner had Ali and Ahmed arrived than the seminar finished. Number four, the ancient Egyptians knew about the medicinal use of oils and coal. Not only did the ancient Egyptians know about the medicinal use of oils, but they also knew about coal. Number five, you're not allowed to touch anything. So on no account must you touch anything. That's the last part of our lesson today. Thank you all for attending, and I wish you enjoy the rest of the day. Assalamu alaikum.